How about that introduction? 97.1. Would it have been sacrilegious for Doug to just have like half the Paczki?
Yes. Doug would have been sick. Doug's not used to eating that much sugar.
But he could have had some.
No.
He walked out with the Paczki. I don't know if he threw it away.
I don't know
that
why.
That feels like unacceptable.
Maybe he gives it to his kids.
Okay.
If you haven't eaten sugar like Doug, extremely healthy, that will make, it's not going to kill you, but it's going to make you feel very uncomfortable.
And then Luke Sloan tells us, who you just heard in the update, that they're pressuring him over in the newsroom to go for the record. He had 6 Paczkis a year ago. I don't think Luke's body
you know what?
could hold 6 Paczkis down, and they want this guy to go 7, 8 Paczkis.
Paczkis is a young man's game. It is.
It's like 4 days worth of food,
like
calories.
Like Kenny may be soon to opting out. Okay, I can imagine Kenny from like 5 years ago could probably put away about 6 to 10 of them. Now he's probably to the 2-3 range.
Yeah, back in my fighting days, I could put at least half a dozen down, no problem at all.
It's a young man's game.
It is.
Do you age out of Paczkis?
I think you do.
You do.
Because I'm down to like a 3/4 of one right now, and I'm like, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that.
See? And Kenny, here's the funny thing. And this isn't what we were.
No, we're just having fun for a second. You're good.
I said I was going to become the person I hate. And I was going to cut it in half. Because I used to be like back in the day, like, who can't eat a whole one? Why are you cutting it in half?
Be a man.
Like, be a man.
See, they looked at me weird. I came in here with a knife because I'm going to cut it in half.
David, right? I said, I may take the other half from you because it's like, I don't want to eat a whole thing.
We got a group of washed dudes around here.
But
walking in with little plastic knives and eating little bites.
Back in the day when I worked for Fox 2, with Al Allen, we would come back, we would each have a box. Yeah, that's Al Allen. You go ahead and hit that. Al's an icon. I don't know what else to say. Walking around with Al, man, it was like walking around with the president. Al has clout like you've never believed before. We never pay for stuff. I can say that now because he's out the business.
We didn't plan on going an hour into Paczkis. If you want to call in about them, great. But I would like to reflect on where the Lions sit as we kick off the offseason. Super Bowl was Sunday. The offseason's officially here. And I want to know the priority, the biggest priority that you have for this team. And I don't think there's just one area this team needs to improve. You saw what it takes to win a Super Bowl. I don't think they would have beaten Kansas City, but it doesn't mean they can't win it next season in New Orleans. To me, Rico, the biggest priority is the offensive line. You got 2 guards hitting free agency. The reason this team was even in a position to win the Super Bowl this year is because of what they do up front. If you're going to pay Goff, if you want to win with Goff, you got to keep him clean. He's elite when he's clean. You cannot have a drop-off on the offensive line. 9-1 when the top 5 starters all played. 9-1, and the only loss, the Dallas game. To me, the biggest priority is making sure the O-line is as good, if not better, going into next season. And then, of course, you address things on defense and whatever. To me, the biggest priority is the offensive line. But I do want to hear from Lions fans today because we are into off-season mode. And this is the most exciting offseason that we've ever had because you're that close to a Super Bowl. 248-539-9797.
Man, you made some strong arguments, man. This is the heat that I want you to bring in the morning. Okay?
Sure.
Bring that heat in the morning because that's some strong arguments. You and Gov, yeah.
People, we're not going there. Rico walked into work today. He got stuck in the vortex. Anyway.
Gov was shot out of a cannon. I like where you're going with that. And what you're saying makes sense because when that line was all together, you're healthy. You got, your guards. You got, Ragnow. Never going to be fully healthy while he's playing. Decker says he wants to be here. He wants to be a Lion for life, but that may be a business decision you have to make. You may not be able to sign everybody. So I like that. And I still say that that's priority number 2. Priority number 1, you have to upgrade your defensive line. We're thinking line, but I'm thinking the other side of the ball. You have to upgrade your defensive line so that you don't have to constantly blitz and blitz and blitz, that you're able to just rush 4 and not even get to the quarterback, contain the quarterback, make the quarterback move. So then you have 7 in the back. So now, you're muddying up the waters that completions aren't going to be easy. I think your defensive line, especially you got to go get Aiden a playmate. He needs somebody where it's not just, you know what, just kind of get Aiden out of the play and you're okay. Because that's what it felt like. And Aiden is still young, so a lot of times he would fall for the okie doke where he would get sucked in. Like when you're watching the Super Bowl and they were looking at Bosa and they were like, Bosa's being smart. He could go after, but he knows, stand your ground because this is actually hurting Mahomes. Aiden still falls for that type of stuff because he's thinking sack, quarterback. I can do my Thriller dance. Get him a playmate. Get him.
You want defense?
Yes. Get him somebody else. Improve the defensive line. Get some depth in there that you can rotate guys in there so they can go out there and just give it their all, almost in hockey shifts where you just know, hey, go out there, give me everything for 5 plays, come back, catch your breath, and I'm going to get you back in there in about another 3-4 plays.
It's probably the second biggest priority for me is the defensive end opposite Aiden Hutchinson. You do want to be able to put games away. You don't want to have to rely on a blitz. I want to make sure that first things first, the offense is taken care of because that's going to be able to put games away.
But see, here's what.
If you told me, hey, they're keeping Glasgow and Jonah, or they're replacing one with a high priority free agent guard or a high draft pick, I go, great. Now the focus is exclusively on defense, but I need to know the offensive line is secured before I can move on.
248-539-9797 in case we didn't get off the phone number. Guys, I'm not trying to say that Jim Costa is wrong because I think that that's the number 2 thing. But unfortunately, in this world, if I don't agree with you, you're wrong.
He's an idiot. Yell at him.
But here's why I will say the defensive line is more of a priority. Look at all the top offenses in the NFL. They really didn't make the Super Bowl. Teams that had defenses went the furthest along because they could shut down the opponent. The Miami Dolphins had the offense to end all offenses. They hung 70. But when it came down to it, they couldn't stop anybody.
I get you. The teams that were left standing in the conference titles, the first, second, and third best scoring defenses, and the Detroit Lions.
Right.
I'm not telling you.
And
this doesn't need to be this, we're not fighting each other because I see what you're saying.
Right. And it's not salt in the wound, but your defense couldn't hold a lead for you. You have to improve it. I know you can score. I know you can put points out there, but can you keep the opposing quarterback from scoring? That's why, to me, it's number 1, the D-line. Because, offense, think about all the offensive teams that are out there that score a ton of points, and they were all sitting at home watching.
Yeah, I think if you're going to match up with the Niners or the Chiefs, the 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl.
Where was the brotherly shove? It was at home.
You're going to need to get to Purdy at the end of the NFC title game if you play it a second time, right? You got to get home and finish that game. If you face Mahomes and you have to blitz, you're probably not beating him. So I agree with you, but my concern is to get back to that point. To get in that game, you got to have this offensive line. It is the engine that drives this football team. It's what makes Jared Goff, whatever you think of him, a top 5, top 10, top 12 quarterback. He is at his best when this team protects him. When you have the run game, when you can pick up all the 4th and shorts that Dan Campbell wants to go for, this O-line needs to be not good, great. And it was this year. And it can be next year, but you can't allow any slippage, Rico, because if we talk about last year being their best shot or not being their best shot, if the O-line slips, that will have been their best shot because then Goff starts to regress. The run game's not as potent. You don't have a 17-point lead in the NFC title game. You got to come back, and you don't have the O-line to keep them upright.
See here, I'm going to help make your point. I still think it's the defense, but because I'm just sick and twisted, I've gone back and rewatched games, including the Super Bowl. Don't ask me why I watched it last night because guess what? Same results. Niners lost. But in the Lions game against the Niners, a lot of the interior push, you could tell that whatever Ragnow was on was wearing off. And the interior, and you could tell where Jonah wasn't.
Yeah.
And the interior was getting beat on a lot of plays where in the first half, man, they were pushing guys 3 yards forward. In the second half, as the game went further and further along, they were getting beat at the point of attack.
I think what makes this conversation so interesting is they need to both their D-line and a reinforcement on their O-line. If someone wanted to say a better sure-handed receiver so you catch those 3rd and 4th downs.
No.
Rico, my point is someone could say corner, kicker.
I was about to say, that's actually right up there was kicker.
But why this is a conversation is
Kicker.
you got to prioritize. You might want all of these things. You got to prioritize. What's one or two at the top of the list? What do you mean, kicker?
Go.
I'm interested in what you were saying there. How that should be number 3?
Yeah.
Or in the
kicker. Yeah, kicker's number 3. And the reason being, but see, you have to have a coach that believes in this kicker because I just don't believe that Campbell does. But here's why kicker is important. And I know people are like, oh, anybody can kick. No. Guys, go online. We don't know the dates, but you could see the Lions' opponents for next year. The Lions are going to play 14 games in a dome, controlled environment, which means that kicking a 50-yard field goal should just be automatic. There is no wind. There is no rain. There is no snow. There's none of that. 14 of your 17 games in a dome. One game's going to be out in California, so you don't know. You could have good weather.
Probably will.
And then you got Chicago and Green Bay.
Yeah, can't avoid it.
But other than that, go do your thing.
Yeah. Okay, 248-539-9797. Prioritize it. Super Bowl's behind us. Off-season's here. You tell us what's at the top of the list if the Lions are going to finish this thing next year and be Super Bowl champs. It's 97.1.